Am I the a-hole for picking up my sister when she didn't want to babysit and causing the parents to lose $250? My female 20 younger sister, female 15, came to visit our city for a few weeks as part of her summer vacation. She split her time between my place and my aunt's, female 30, place. My aunt has 2 toddlers and is currently on maternity leave. While my sister was at my aunt's, she spent most of her time babysitting unpaid, while my aunt went out to see friends, get her nails done, dates with husband, etc. Every single day she was there. She was babysitting for between 4 to 8 hours a day. There was one day where my aunt was gone all day. She came home briefly and went back out again for the evening, leaving my sister with the kids literally all day. A few days ago, I asked my sister if she wanted to come to Dave & Buster's with me and some friends. She tells me she really wants to but can't because she's babysitting again. I told her that she's allowed to decline. She was a bit scared to say no, but yesterday she told my aunt that she can't babysit on Friday, today. My aunt says, too bad. They have a dinner reservation at an expensive restaurant and will lose the deposit, $250, if they don't show up. My sister told my aunt that she was exhausted from babysitting, but my aunt basically said, sorry, but she has to stay and watch the kids. My sister was disappointed, but didn't put up any more fight. At that point, I decided to intervene and told my aunt I'd be picking up my sister on Friday, and that's the end of it. She sent me a whole bunch of texts after that, but honestly, I didn't reply or even read them. I show up to pick up my sister and my aunt comes out to my car yelling at me. She says it's not my business what my sister does, and she's staying. I ignored my aunt and saw my sister at the door and yelled over to her to come get in the car. She did. My aunt couldn't believe that she was actually leaving and started yelling at my sister too. My sister looked scared, but I told her to just get in the car. We drove away. They couldn't find a replacement babysitter last minute and ended up missing the reservation and being charged for that cancellation. My mom is with me on this and said I did good for getting my sister out of the house. But another aunt heard about the story and she told me I shouldn't have picked up my sister after aunt number 1 said she already has dinner reservations. She also said that I shouldn't have intervened and should have let my sister learn to stand up for herself. So now I am questioning if I should have let my sister stay there and learn a lesson in standing up to people or if I did the right thing. Am I the a-hole for picking up my sister and leaving? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'm glad your mom is on your sister's side. She should learn to stick up for herself? She's 15 and being taken advantage of by her adult aunt. You did the right thing. Edited to add, the person who needs to learn here is your aunt, not to take advantage of her niece. The mom could also file against the aunt for not paying the little sister for performing childcare. Do they realize that? Not the a-hole, and thank you for doing that. Your sister is not free babysitting and not at the whim of your aunt. Also, shouldn't your aunt be bonding with the kids? Not sure how long maternity leave is where you are, but even a year. I'd expect the mother to be with baby a little more. I know parents need breaks, but a whole day? Not the a-hole. 18 months maternity leave. I don't have kids, so maybe I don't know how hard it is. But I was starting to feel like the babysitting was excessive, especially since my aunt has been off work for almost a year already and gets lots of help from her in-laws with the kids. I just didn't think it's my 15-year-old sister's responsibility for helping my aunt so much on her summer break. Not the a-hole, but why was your mother allowing this to happen? Not the a-hole. Yes, of course your 15-year-old sister needs to learn how to stand up for herself. All 15-year-olds do. And you know how they learn that? By having an adult, like yourself, model how to set boundaries and not let them be taken advantage of. She needed you to do this, so next time she can do it herself. I'm glad your mom is on your side and your sister's side. You did good. You're a great big sister. Your aunt sucks and is cheap AF. If she can't afford a $250 deposit for a reservation, she can sure as heck afford to pay a babysitter. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law why I'm filing for full custody? My 28 female ex-boyfriend Mark, 30 male, has a girlfriend Janet, 32 female. Janet isn't a very family-oriented person and hates kids, which is ironic because me and Mark have a daughter, Cora. Recently, a situation came up where Janet tried to punish Cora by locking her out the house. We all lived around forests, so anything could have happened to her. Cora called me and I ended up picking her up and calling Mark because Janet wasn't answering the door. I called Mark and told him what happened, and he told me to at least listen to Janet's side of the story. I told him I didn't care about her side because there's no behavior that could allow an adult to lock a 12-year-old out the house. It's honestly appalling to me. I ended finding out the full story and my mind still didn't change about how I felt. I talked to my daughter about how she would feel if I were to file for full custody, and she said she didn't care as long as she wasn't around Janet. I told Mark that I was filing for full, and he told his mom and she started texting me on Facebook super angry. Apparently, Mark and Janet told a different story than what actually happened and excluded the locking out the house part to make me and Cora look bad. So I ended up telling Mark's mom, and she apologized. And from what I was told, she told Mark that he was a horrible father and wouldn't talk to him if he decided to continue the relationship between him and Janet. Mark is now saying that I'm a bad person and a bad mom. My sister thinks that I went too far and the situation could have been talked about. Now for the top comments. Not the whole. She locked your child out of the house. That is not appropriate at all, but especially not as a punishment. Janet did something that endangered your child, and she knew it was unreasonable, which is why she and Mark are lying to everyone. Good for you for protecting your kid, and your daughter's grandmother is a good one. Also, OP needs to file for emergency protective custody until the hearing for full custody so the child doesn't have to go back. Not the a-hole. As part of the emergency protective custody, OP should also file a police report. I'm not a lawyer, but how can it be legal for someone to lock a minor out of their home? My mother did it to me at about that age, except I was naked and it was January or February in Wisconsin, so cold and snowy. I started screaming for the neighbors, and she, being a former social worker, let me back in real fast. A few winters ago, someone in our neighborhood did that and a child passed away. Never lock a child out of the house, no matter the weather. It's horrifying that after being a social worker, she thought that was in any way appropriate. I'm sorry that happened to you. Not the a-hole. You're right, and this has nothing to do with where you live. There is no situation that warrants locking a 12-year-old out of their own home. Not ever. That's mistreatment/neglect. Period. And as someone literally old enough to be your mom, I'm so sorry, because that must have been genuinely terrifying for Cora and horrible for you to hear as a mom. It's one thing not to get along with someone or to have reasonable parenting disagreements, but I cannot imagine how frightening it must be to find out that someone to whom you have entrusted the safety of your child has abused that responsibility so egregiously. You don't need to like Janet or even get along with her or Mark, but you absolutely have a right to know that when Cora is at their home, she is safe. And she is not safe with an adult who thinks that it is appropriate to lock her out at the age of 12. You're right to file for sole custody. This is a safety issue. You are clearly not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my stepdaughter is not entitled to my late ex-wife or daughter's money? I am married to Ashley and our girls from previous relationships are both 17. My ex-wife was Sam. She and I were never a great couple, but we were great friends and great parents/co-parents. So we stayed very close after the divorce, and I was aware she had started saving for our daughter's future education. We had reached somewhat of a compromise on how to handle that. I did most of the spending on her adolescent activities and extras, so all her extracurricular activities, hobbies, and for the most part gifts that we shared, while she saved for the future in an effective way. I never knew how much was in the account until 2 years ago when my ex died. It was then I learned she had saved a hefty amount, and that aside for allowing for her funeral expenses, she had left money for our daughter to use as she saw fit outside of the college money. Ashley and I married 7 years ago, and at the time we had discussed money for the girls, etc. I explained I was not saving, but my ex-wife was. She had not started anything for her daughter at that point, and her ex was not saving either. So we started to put a little by when we could, but we were never able to save huge chunks at a time. After Sam died, money became a much larger issue. Ashley was upset to learn my daughter had a considerate amount more than my stepdaughter for college, and that she had money to spare. It only became a bigger deal this past May. My daughter told me she had decided to do community college in her mom's hometown so she could be close to her grandparents for a while, and could still follow her dreams. Ashley then brought up how some of that money could go to my stepdaughter. I told her no, that it was not our money, And even if she tried to suggest that it would be mine seeing as my daughter is a minor, I pointed out that it would be stealing to just take from her. And I had never contributed to that fund directly. And it would be taking my ex-wife's money. Ashley went off about Sam putting so much away when she knew our daughter had a stepsister, and how she was selfish to make her so much better off than her only sibling. I told her she needed to get over that, because Sam only had one child to think about, and it wasn't her job to think about my stepdaughter, or even any bio kids I could have had after our divorce. Ashley told me to think about my stepdaughter. I told her my stepdaughter is not entitled to my daughter's money or my ex-wife's money, whichever way she wanted to look at it. She asked how I could be so callous about her daughter's disadvantage. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your ex-wife saved it for your daughter, not the stepdaughter, so she's not entitled to any of it. Those were my thoughts. Those are the facts. It's not even yours. It was saved by your ex-wife for her daughter. I think she would turn in her grave if you caved in and used some of it for your stepdaughter. Not the a-hole. Sam saved for her daughter. Her only daughter. Not for a stranger's kid who she had no responsibility for. Don't punish your daughter by taking away her college fund that her mother set up for her, just because your wife doesn't know how to make good financial decisions for her kid. I would never take from my daughter. I would also never expect Sam to have saved or given money for my stepdaughter. Mostly, I was just questioning my own handling of saying no and staying firm. Whether I lack more care/compassion in this matter. You're definitely in the right. That money is for your daughter and your daughter only. You handled it well. Not the a-hole, but definitely explain to your daughter that it is her money left by her mother. It seems like she has a good idea of what she wants to do with it. Maybe talk to her about financial responsibility and all of that as well. I feel like your current wife might be the type to try and guilt your daughter into giving up some of the money or sharing. I don't believe my wife would go that far. I do believe this might not be over with her and me, but it will change our marriage incredibly if she continues to push for this. My daughter wouldn't share with her stepsister. Neither would my stepdaughter. The girls are not close and don't have a sisterly relationship. It's fine, but they are not each other's biggest fans. I also have the kind of relationship with my daughter where she would tell me if someone was pressuring her. Still, have the conversation so she's forewarned. Look at it this way. Did you expect your wife to pressure you as she has over all of this? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my daughter and son away for the weekend without my stepkids? I have 4 children. 2 bio children who are 17 and 15 and 2 stepchildren who are 12 and 11. I was a widower when I met my current wife 7 years ago. My first wife had passed 3 years before meeting my current wife, and she was a single mom whose ex was not in the kids' lives at all. So they came to see me as dad, and I love them. But I admit my love for them did come at the expense of my kids somewhat. Something that only truly stuck with me recently when my bio children told me they were done with any and all family time. That we were not a family. That they wanted to go live with their grandparents in another state. I was shocked. I had thought I had done a good job of being there for them and providing them with a family. We talked. They explained how to them my wife and stepchildren were not people they loved and considered family, and that by never getting time with just me, they felt like they had lost their whole family, that they did not consider it family time when we were all together. My daughter told me she was pretty much ready to leave and had even tried to graduate early, but due to her learning disability she was unsuccessful. It was a huge wake-up call for me. I had sat and discussed what was going on with my wife, and I told her I wanted to take my son and daughter away for the weekend, just the 3 of us. It wasn't until I got back that my wife told me my stepchildren had told her they were very upset, and she decided it was unfair that I left them behind and made them feel like they were less my kids. They never said anything to me before when I spoke to them, but when I got back they told me they felt it was unfair and that I should be their real dad too. I explained we could do something just the 3 of us, but that my son and daughter needed some time with just me. I am making much more of an effort to make my bio kids feel like they have not lost me and that they can be honest and open with me. My wife wanted to do something with my bios while I spent time with my stepkids since we got back. My bio kids weren't interested, which turned into my wife being very upset and telling me again that I did a wrong thing taking my bios for the weekend but not my stepchildren. She said I showed my kids that she and my stepkids, are not family. I told her I could not change their feelings after the damage I did, But that maybe in time, if they feel like they haven't lost me, they could have a better relationship with them as well. But I told her firmly I did what I needed to do for my relationship with my older 2 children. She said it should never come at the expense of the younger kids. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your wife certainly is. It seems to me that while you were gone over the weekend with your kids, she stirred a pot with her kids, and that is why they're now saying what they're saying. You absolutely did the right thing, OP. Because if not, once they were able to leave, they would and go no contact with you. Let her know that the way her kids feel about one weekend is what your children have been feeling for the last 7 years. You did good stepping up for your stepkids, but it was the cost of your relationship with your kids, and you're fixing that now. Also, she can't force time with her kids because currently they feel spiteful towards her. Because in their minds, she stole you/your time from them in favor of a new family with her, and they're not wrong. Stay firm with your wife and advise therapy/counseling for everyone involved, either group and solo. Keep listening to your kids' feelings and make sure they feel heard. Agree, your wife is the a-hole. She started the drama while you were gone, and if she ever wants a relationship with your kids, she needs to understand how they are feeling and not be offended when they don't want to spend time with her. Maybe as things improve and you give it some time, they may come around, but forcing them to do anything with her will just make it worse. I'm glad you're refocused on your kids, and you shouldn't let her deter you.